while he was still speaking, a mob appeared, and the man named Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him. But Jesus said, "Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?" Seeing what was about to happen, those around him said, "Lord, should we strike with the sword?" And one of them struck the chief priest's servant and cut off his right ear. But Jesus answered them, "Enough of this." And he touched his ear and healed him. Jesus said to those who had come to arrest him, the chief priests and captains of the temple guard and elders, "Have you come with swords and clubs, as if I am a criminal? I was with you daily in the temple, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour. This is the authority of darkness." Then they seized him and led him away and took him to the chief priest's house. Peter followed at a distance. A fire had been lit in the middle of the courtyard, and Peter sat down with those who were around it. A servant girl noticed him sitting in the light, and she stared at him and said, "This one also was with him." But Peter denied it. "Woman, I do not know him." A short time later, someone else looked at him and said, "You are one of them as well." But Peter said, "Sir, I am not." An hour or so later, another one said quite emphatically, "Certainly, this man was also with him. In fact, he is a Galilean." But Peter said, "Sir, I do not know what you are talking about." And immediately, while he was still speaking, the rooster crowed. The Lord turned and looked at Peter, and Peter remembered the Lord's prediction, how he had said to him, "Before the rooster crows today, you will deny me 3 times." And Peter went outside and wept bitterly. Now the men who were guarding Jesus mocked him and beat him. They blindfolded him and asked him, "Prophesy! Who is it who struck you?" And they heaped many other insults on him. As day broke, the elders of the people, the chief priests and the scribes gathered together, and Jesus was led out before their council. They inquired, "If you are the Christ, tell us so." But he replied, "If I were to tell you, you would not believe. And if I were to ask you a question, you would not answer. But from this time on, the Son of Man will be seated at God's right hand of power." They all said, "So you are the Son of God." But he replied, "You say that I am." And they responded, "What more testimony do we need? We have heard it from his own mouth." Then the whole council rose and brought him to Governor Pilate. They began to accuse him, saying, "We found this man perverting our nation and forbidding people to pay taxes to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king." So Pilate asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "You say so." Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, "I can find no fault with this man." But they grew more insistent. "He is stirring up the people, teaching throughout the whole of Judea, starting in Galilee and ending up here." When Pilate heard this, he asked whether the man was from Galilee. And when he discovered that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was himself in Jerusalem at that time. Now when Herod saw Jesus, he was overjoyed. He had been wanting to see Jesus for some time, because he had heard about him, and hoped to see him perform some miraculous sign. He questioned him at length, but Jesus said nothing in reply. The chief priests and the scribes stood there, vehemently accusing him, and Herod held Jesus in contempt. With the help of his soldiers, he ridiculed him, dressed him in shining clothes, and sent him back to Pilate. On that day, Herod and Pilate became friends with each other, for previously there had been hostility between them. Pilate called together the chief priests, the leaders, and the people, and said to them, "You brought this man to me as one who was perverting the people. I interrogated him in your presence, but found no basis for any of your accusations against him. Moreover, neither did Herod, for he sent him back to us. It seems obvious that he has done nothing deserving of death. Therefore I will order a flogging and then release him." But they cried out together, "Take him away! Release Barabbas to us!" Barabbas was in prison for a rebellion that had occurred in the city and for murder. Pilate wanted to release Jesus, and so he spoke to them again, but they cried out, "Crucify! Crucify him!" A third time Pilate said to them, "For what? Has he done anything evil? I have found that this man committed no crime deserving of death. Therefore I will order a flogging and then release him." But the crowd kept demanding with loud voices that he be crucified, and their voices won out. Pilate decided to grant their request. He released the man who had been imprisoned for rebellion and murder, as they requested, and gave Jesus up to what they wanted.